expanded human rights ordinance. Our statement today is this: we cannot and will not support any ordinance that is driven by sexual orientation. We believe that the laws that are enacted at this point, from the Civil Rights Act, on the federal, state, and local level, covers what needs to be covered. If there's anyone that is not covered in any area, then I think that's something for the city council along with the mayor to deal with. But we also believe that whatever comes out, it needs to be done on a referendum. We don't believe that it needs to be written or passed by a few, even the city council, or signed by the mayor. We believe that the people of Jacksonville should have the right to vote and make a decision on what it is that this city believes and wants. That is our statement as it relates to the HRO.
Any questions?
Any questions?
So if a referendum, if they do a referendum, it could still pass. Are you guys okay with that as long as it's the majority
If the
of the
people of Jacksonville pass it, we have to accept the law, or we have to accept what is voted. No, I won't agree with it, but there are a lot of things I don't agree with. But I'm a citizen of the city.
Pastor, as far as mechanisms go, would the city council have to put it on the ballot then, and what's the process there?
Yes, the city council would have to put it on the ballot.
So there would be, it would still be involved. That would be probably hotly debated as well.
Right, right.
What is,
But we don't have a problem with the city council putting it on the ballot. I mean, somebody got to put it on the ballot.
what language would you want to put on the ballot? How would the language read?
Well, that's to be further studied. We didn't come to dictate anything. We just came to make a statement as it relates to our belief and what we believe we are limited to supporting as it relates to who we are.
Some have said that they don't think that the majority should vote on what is essentially a minority issue. What's your response to that, sir?
Excuse me, can you make that statement?
Some have said they don't agree with the majority of people voting on what they say is essentially a minority issue. What's your response to that?
Well, who will vote on it?
Let me ask it this way, the human rights ordinance covers a lot of things: race, sex, gender, religion. All those things were put in place by city council as opposed to being a referendum. Why a referendum on this when the rest of the human rights ordinance was done by city council elected by the people?
Because this particular ordinance is one that's been debated throughout the city. It was tried one time in 2012. It was rejected, and now we're going across the city in different places with the mayor debating it. I mean, it's become in my opinion, it's become a citywide issue. As it relates to many of the other ordinances, they were already on the federal books, and there was not that much controversy as it relates to making it a part of the city ordinance.
Pastor, is there any fear about use of bathrooms as it relates to churches?
Well, there are a lot of fears as it relates to that, but and again, I don't want to go beyond what I know. I don't want to go beyond that. I do understand that there's some talk that the church becomes a public space, and if it's a public space, then we are limited on what we can say and do, and who we can say can't use the restroom, or who can't be buried, or who we can't funeralize. So there are a lot of things we've heard, but I want to be sure before we make any kind of statement on those kinds of issues, because we want to make sure that whatever we make a statement on are statements of facts and not just rumors.
Pastor, citywide referendum, that becomes a public rodeo.
I agree.
I mean, it's going to be a lot of discussion, a lot of advertising potentially. I mean, that takes it to an all new level.
And we just have to ride the bull.
We passed in 1964, Civil Rights Act included everybody. President Johnson, Humphrey, Senator Everett from Chicago, who's a Republican, Senator Mansfield, who's a Democrat, and along with Dr. King, Roy Wilkins, Ruby Hurley, and those guys got together as a group and passed public accommodation bill. That bill was for everybody, and it still stands for everybody. So, I don't, maybe.
Well, one of the things that we did, we had a coalition that went to the meeting on last Thursday at Edwards College. One of the reasons I went, I wanted to be educated more about what it was that was needed, what was being asked for, and what, you know, what was it that wasn't being provided. And I stayed there until the end of the meeting, and to be totally honest with you, I still didn't get out of that meeting anything that was short. You know, as it relates, I didn't get no examples of what we went to this restaurant and they kicked us out. We went to try to get housing and we couldn't get it. I didn't hear not one example of anything that would cause me to want to rethink anything as it relates to. And I'm not saying it didn't happen, because we also studied the sheriff. You know, we got the records and to see how many times there was a hate crime in Jacksonville from 2010, and we tried to find out how many times that the lesbian gay community, you know, how many problems. We found one incident since that time. There were other incidents of hate crime, but some of them was against the homeless, some of them was against African Americans, but it was only one incident. Now, one is too many. One is too many, but you know, I just think that we've got to cool down, get serious about looking at what is really needed. What is really needed for all of us. Because the reality is, many of us were born, including myself, were born in Jacksonville. I had no protection under the law. You know, we couldn't vote, we couldn't go to housing, we had no protection. And the protections that has been put in place are protections that we have to be not satisfied with, but we have to live within the scope of the protections that we have. There are many more needed, in my opinion. For an example, we got rid of the affirmative action. You know, that was a protection. We have to live with that. But that doesn't mean that I can't continue to prosper in a city like Jacksonville. Because I'm gonna tell you, I was born and raised here. Jacksonville is a great city. Many businesses are still coming to this city. There are a whole lot of positive things happening in Jacksonville. And I, you know, so it kind of hurt me to see people try to say Jacksonville racist or Jacksonville doesn't provide this, the businesses are leaving. That is absolutely not true. I was head of the Jacksonville Economic Development Commission under John Delaney, and businesses are still coming to this city.
Pastor, you know, Houston went down this road, took it to the public. You think that's the right formula to decide this issue?
Yeah, I think at this point, to me, that would be the best thing to do.
Did you look at Houston, what happened there? Or, I mean, obviously you're aware of what happened in Houston. Yes. And your thoughts on what happened there and what potentially could happen here?
The bottom line is, I don't see us, you know, we don't need to keep coming back to the same issue. So whatever it takes, whether it's a referendum, whether it is city council, mayor, whoever it is, but we need to deal with it and we need to finalize it as much as we can.
Yeah, so the Houston referendum, it wasn't just on sexual orientation, it was also race, veterans, age.
Right.
Everything was on the ballot, got voted down by the people. Do you think the people of Jacksonville should have a chance to vote on the entire human rights ordinance and see if they want to get rid of it entirely? Or should that be up to the voters to decide now?
Well, you know, all of the human rights ordinance should not, because we have the federal law that applies to all of us. We have state law that applies to all of us. And and then we have local ordinances. And the reality is, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but even the human rights ordinance doesn't give me legislation. It doesn't give me teeth. It gives me mediation. That means that the city called the restaurant owner, or the city called the housing owner, and whoever has been discriminated against, sit down, and they mediate together, and they come out of that with some solution. The federal law has teeth in it. The state law has teeth in it. And those laws are still laws. They haven't changed, and it applies to all of us.
And Pastor, just for clarification, what exactly do you want the voters to vote on specifically in this referendum, so there's no misunderstanding? On the whole human rights thing, ordinance, or any component?
The voters, well, if you do a referendum, the voters need to vote on the expanded human rights ordinance.
Is this Reverend, though, you're saying that because the local human rights ordinance should only be about things that are already in law at the federal or state level? Is that kind of the argument you're making?
Yes, that's kind of the argument I'm making, yes, sir.
And is that also the argument for why it was okay in the past for city council to approve the human rights ordinance?
Right.
Without going to a referendum?
Absolutely.
That's the argument.
Yes, yes.
To get a chance to talk to Mayor Curry, any council members, see if they're on side of doing it this way. Anybody can say, yeah, let's do it.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
The advocates on the other side are saying this is a civil rights issue, et cetera, that their struggle was akin to that of the sixties and seventies for the African American community. I was wondering if you wanted to speak on that.
Trust me, it wasn't. I lived it. I lived in Jacksonville in the 50s and 60s. I lived under Jim Crow. I lived, when my mother had to get off the bus and walk across the street, because there were other people walking on the same side of the street. I lived in it when the schools were, segregated, so I've lived that. That is absolutely not even akin to the civil rights, bro.
I think that ends our press conference. If you want to do some individual interviews with Pastor Newville, has been selected as the spokesman for the group.
I think we've done